Hey, everybody. Welcome to Bound to Truth. This is Chris Lopez with Jonathan Hershey. It has been a spell. It's been about a month. February is a short month, but it felt long, especially since last podcasting. The last one I did was with Randy Bauer. John's been busy with a lot of adventures of his own with his family, lovely family. And we've had a few of our adventures as well. Didn't we, John?
Yes, we did.
What did we
If you
do
guys,
in
if
February?
everybody hears a bunch of grunting and weird sounds, it's because there's a baby next to me.
That is one of his many adventures and a beautiful family and baby as well. So, John, how's this year going for you, man? How is everything happening? You want to talk about our recent adventures? You don't have to go too much detail because now we're keeping hush
You
hush, but
guys,
yeah,
you guys remember when there was a second plane on 9/11? That's how my year's going so far.
oh,
Yeah, it's rough.
dude, yeah,
But
yeah,
but you know how it is.
we do, man. Life will throw us curveballs, both good and bad, and really test our character, right?
Yep, and Chris gets a lot of balls.
And I hate you again. Thank you, John.
Rune agrees with me.
Oh my goodness. All right, my gosh. So, everybody apologize for the delay. You know, we've been really busy with a lot of stuff, and that's what's going on. And it's for good reasons too. You know, we've been finished up a lot of films. Gosh, with the Hazard Files we talked about in the podcast, and then what's the next one? The Blue Mountain Project, right? And
Yep.
and and what and you, I know we did some messaging on that. What is that getting fine? Is that you're finished with it? You're finalized?
So
What's
it's finished. I've already submitted everything except for the film itself to Echelon Studios. I have not heard back from her after I sent her the questionnaire and everything too. I don't know. I mean, she's taking her time with it too, but we're waiting for the full move forward to then send them the file so that they can work their fancy magic and get it out there for the world to see.
yeah? How excited about are you?
Pretty excited. But people can also go over to the YouTube and see a bunch of things that I've posted, little shorts from the Blue Mountain as well as our cave adventure that we went on too, that they can go over and pop over and watch.
Absolutely, and we'll definitely put the links on that as well to kind of from this channel to take a look at that. That's some really good stuff, guys. So you get a broad perspective more than just the podcast, but what we do with Afterlife Research, not just about haunted cemeteries, haunted houses, but this particular cave that we recently went to in February. So, John, do you want to talk a little bit about that? Not talk about location or give anything away, but just I want to follow your lead with this one.
It was a cave. It was dark. It was spooky. It was deeper than we could have imagined. We didn't get as far into it as I wanted to, but it was a pretty big experience. And I'd like people to just, instead of me describing it, you guys can just run over to the YouTube and start seeing all the shorts that I put together. And I'm actually starting to I already put one of them out of the whole adventure from start to finish. And I'm going to be doing them in like 18 to 25-minute increments. The first part is out, and I'll work on the second part probably Monday. And then there will be a third and fourth and into it. I'm, kind of going through and editing out all the dead space and like before things would happen, I'm going to the like 5, 10 minutes before something happens so that people can see it as it progresses, especially towards the end there, because towards the end of our adventure, things really started to get crazy.
It definitely did. And I think John will agree that this literally is just a tip of the iceberg on the many things, especially the things you post on TikTok and the people that have reached out, especially to you
Yeah.
regarding that cave. And I'll tell you out there in the audience that we are planning a very specific date and time to go even deeper, especially things that were shared recently to John. And it's pretty. I just hope it doesn't turn into the oh my God, what's that talk show back in the day? the Juan Rivera talk show where they're opening Al Capone's secret what is it stash or like cache of like all this stuff and everything. It was like just a nothing burger, and he just started singing on TV. It was pretty hilarious. But I'm hoping that it will definitely turn into something very fruitful. I feel confident about that, especially our experience we had out there. John, how do you feel about that?
I think so too. I think that this specific adventure is going to yield a lot. It was more dramatic than I could have ever like asked for. I was not expecting this in the slightest from our adventure,
Yeah.
and I'm really excited for everybody to see it.
Yeah, and then on the side note too, I fell in the snow about 6 times, swear not to smoke, and then went back to my old habits.
Yep.
Uh, I just I don't and my body was really really sore because I'm an old guy. John was just trucking it like a beast because he's like I live for this type of thing. He's like
I
this
was
is
ready to go
nothing.
back in the cave
I know,
right
right?
after we got out. I thought about hitting the other side of it to see
He's
where it
like
goes.
let's just go back. Well you did discover another cave.
Yeah, two of
Uh,
them actually.
yeah, two of them actually, right? Um, so today we get a special topic we're going to talk about, but before to that, let's get to about the podcast and so forth. So, of course, like we talked before, how can you reach us? You can reach us on boundtotruth34@gmail.com. Definitely share your thoughts, theories, comments. If you want to be the guest on the show, concerns, insults, we would love to hear those comments. Boundtotruth34@gmail.com. You hear us on Spotify, Buzzsprouts, iTunes, YouTube, X. You can find us on Facebook as well. Again, just search for Bound to Truth, and we are everywhere. We're getting there. The platform's getting explosive. And John, I gotta say this: you've done a hell of a job with helping with this podcast, and I can not thank you enough for what you've done, your contribution, not just in your tech skills, but just your knowledge and ability and your experience in what you do.
Well, thank you, good sir.
I know I'm being a little polite tonight.
I
Anywho,
know.
so tonight we're going to talk about who is the devil. And of course, when we hear the devil, especially in you know around the world, but of course in America, we think of the name Lucifer, right? So we're going to really work this to be a three-part series, and this first part is going to talk more just about Lucifer, his role, the Christian belief into it, and other avenues as well outside the Christian norm when it comes to Roman and other beliefs and so forth. And the second part, we'll talk more about John's thoughts about what is really going on and what his expertise is in regards to exorcism and so forth. So to begin it, John, what I want to do is just do a brief, simple introduction of the devil, Lucifer, in the normal Christian belief, right? So in the explanation of Lucifer, right? Lucifer is considered evil in Christian theology because he rebelled against God and became the devil. Lucifer was once an angel who was considered to be the most beautiful and gifted. Lucifer's pride led him to rebel against God. Lucifer's rebellion is said to have affected all living things in God's universe. In the Bible, Lucifer appears in Isaiah in the King James Version. The word Lucifer is in the Latin word that means the morning star or the planet Venus. It is translated of Hebrew word Hallel. I don't know if I got that right, which means shining one. So obviously, Lucifer, from understanding me, is the most powerful angel second to God. So, John, you want to give us a little bit about that behind that? That's a very simplistic view, but Lucifer, talk. You want to talk a little about him?
Lucifer, Morning Star. This is a loaded topic. Like I'm glad that we're doing multiple parts on it, because it's something that you cannot sum up in even honestly days. You could go on it for days. So the light bearer, God's favorite, his beloved creation, whom he loved as much as he loved his son, so to speak. Like you said, you gave a good description, and Rune has something to say about it too. She wanted me to mention that how you brought up the planet Venus, personified as a male figure bearing a torch.
Mhm.
He Lucifer actually doesn't really have much legend other than in like poetry that he was often spoke about in. the Christian Bible and things like that. Sorry, I'm having other people walk into the room. Hi, twinsies.
No, that's okay.
No, I'm on the podcast, baby girl. Um, but in regards to the name Lucifer, that was his name that he had before his fall when he became Satan.
Hmm.
Um, and that's when, that was kind of, I think that was documented in like 1608 or something like that.
Okay.
Something called, if I remember, I think it was called like Paradise something.
Paradise Falls.
No, Lost,
Oh,
Paradise,
Paradise
maybe,
Lost. You're
maybe,
right.
yeah.
Right. Paradise Lost. Yes, you're
But
right.
the whole idea of it is that Lucifer is this great being that chose to go against God's wishes and was cast down as a punishment to be, some people believe, some religions believe that he is the prince of hell. He is the one who controls it. He is the one that tortures, that damns, that does all the horrible things to the people that enter the realm of hell. And then others believe, and it's actually and it's more accurate, saying that as his punishment for him, God put him in an overseeing of hell to where he would have to see these people and oversee them being tortured, these people whom he loved as much as God loved them, his creation. So it was more of a punishment to be the overwatcher of their torture. Um, but really, when it comes down to that whole thing, like if you anybody knows anything about the hierarchy of hell, it's literally when you read the names on the tree of the prince of demons, Lucifer's isn't even the center of it. It's Beelzebub, Satan, Dis, Mephotausi, Feli, I can't pronounce that one. Um, Lilith, Agrat, Bat, Mahalt, Nahim, Eseth, Zenium, Asmodee, Baal. I'm trying to remember all that in Perseon. Or oh, no, Asmodeus, Asmodee, Perseon, Vine, Balaam, Zagan, Abaddon, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But when you look at it, even down to the earliest archiving of the princes of hell, Satan or Lucifer isn't the worst of them. And you watch it as he's not the center. He's the one above the one that's in the center, which is Beelzebub, and as the overseer of Beelzebub, who is supposed to be the ultimate evil. But that's not that's beyond the fact. But as for Lucifer, he really who he is he was an angel, God's most beloved, who chose to go against the wishes and the will of God, and he was cast out of heaven as his punishment.
So let's go with that. If he's,
Yeah.
because obviously the whole thing with, the traditional belief is that he wanted to be God, right? And the other thing was there's other beliefs that, I'm not going to worship man that you created, right?
Yeah.
And so forth. And of course, that's, where he's a serpent and so forth. But if he loved humanity, why was he punished?
So
So yeah, so why was he punished for something that God created and loved? Is if he's supposed to be the one who hates us and disdains us because we are higher than him, because we are God's best creation. That's that again. That's and then yeah, and I'll get to the points too. But go ahead.
so the road is split three ways on this. There are three scriptures, so to speak,
Hmm.
wrote around why and how and what are the reasons that he was cast out of heaven. The first one you touched a little bit on was just blatant disregard and disobedience towards God,
Hmm.
where he said you are to love them. He said they're supposed to be treated the most high, this creation that I've made, and he's like, no, fuck that, I'm not doing that. So God cast him aside because he decided to come down and plant seeds of evil in mankind. Then there's the other one, which this one is the most controversial, but also has, unfortunately, the most evidence behind it. And I can actually compile a whole thesis on this and actually send them all to you so you can put them on the page.
And I
Because
think
this
you
is a
have a
this is
thesis on it, right? You wrote about it a long time ago.
yeah, this is a much bigger one, which there's documentation of it, is that God during the fall of Babel wanted to destroy every and all humanity again. And Lucifer stood against God and said, "You are not going to do this," and fought a battle against God and his heavenly host with the ones that chose to take Lucifer's side during the fall, which the fall in this theory was Lucifer going around basically grabbing his homies and cronies and like, do you guys like, are you with me? Are you not? And fighting this holy battle against the angels
Right.
during this.
Okay. So let me pause you for a second on that before
Yeah,
we go into that. So that is actually a really interesting theory regarding the Tower of Babel because yeah, you're right. Like you hear the story in the Bible that the Tower of Babel is where they're trying to reach God and become
yeah.
God. God came down saying, "Hell no, where I'm gonna divide you with all supposedly that's how we have all these different languages that came
Languages,
across,
yeah.
right, and all the jazz. But my thing is to and forgive me if I'm stepping back, and we'll come back to Lucifer. Is if that's the case, then who was the serpent in the Garden of Eden?
So I don't really have any real evidence to support any of this naturally. Nobody really does. But the Bible says that the serpent was a great deceiver.
Right.
Beelzebub, the Lord of Flies, is known as the great deceiver. Lucifer is not known as the great deceiver. He is known as the bringer of light.
Hmm.
Satan is not known as the great deceiver. He is known as, what is it? They call him something about the hardness of the heart, blah, blah, blah. But Beelzebub is known as the great deceiver, the bringer of lies, the tormentor of souls.
Hmm.
So it's very possible that maybe there is another ultimate evil that we just, that because and I really bring it back to this whole point of the Bible has to be, especially now, taken with a grain of salt. It
Hmm.
has to be interpreted personally, not literally, because of what we all know to be true.
Right.
The narrative was changed to fit the profile during the time of the Crusades. Um, it
Yeah,
has been
that's that's
changed
that's a
over
that's a
the
good point.
centuries
Yeah, that's a good point.
to match what they want the people to think, exactly what we are right, you are wrong. And the problem with that is because there were so little people that could speak the old tongue, that you couldn't, or read it, that you couldn't translate it literally. It was translated by people who were like, yeah, I know what I'm talking about. Now, I'm not saying that the Bible's wrong. Please don't get me
Right.
confused with that. But
It's
what I am saying is,
interpretation.
yeah,
It's a
as a
yeah.
devout man of God, and I've had this conversation with many people, with you, with anybody who questions the authority of the Bible, is I tell them that you read it for yourself
Hmm.
and feel what it is interpreted to you.
Right.
Because you sometimes you can't take the Bible literally. You have to read between the lines because it's not like an instruction manual. It's not a screw the A bolt A into bolt hole A. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
an interpretation of what people over the centuries got from other word of mouth. It's like playing the telephone game. It got skewed, it got confused potentially, and I don't really know how to describe the serpent in the garden other than was it a great deceiver, or was it just man making a decision for themselves? Was there ever a deceiver? Because man has free will, and did God plant temptation, the seed of temptation in their mind to see if they would go against his will?
You know what's it's funny? I was when you were talking about the Babel thing, right? With
Yeah,
that supposedly the controversial theory that's when the fall happened, right?
yeah,
So then people say, well, people can come back and say, well, that can't be possible because the fall happened before Adam and Eve, right? That's when the evil came through, and we talk about Because about being truly from evil compared to Lucifer being born from light and then the whole rebellion, right?
But the
But
problem with that theory is this.
yeah.
If the fall happened then, it had to have happened before because Satan would have already been put in that position of deception and evil. He would have already fallen from the grace of God for the creation of mankind. Because on both theories, it's for the creation or against the creation of mankind, which means that mankind, all of them had to already exist in entirety
Hmm.
for that to happen.
So
So
let's,
that's the part
yeah.
that really doesn't make sense to me is
Hmm.
that if God would have already cast Lucifer out of heaven long before the garden and the incident between Adam and Eve and the serpent.
Right.
Because and that's the and I've had this argument with a lot of philosophers, a lot of biblical philosophers. I had it with a religious study teacher, and he got really pissed off at it because because it made sense. And he told me later on, he's like, the reason I was so angry is it confused me and it made me think that everything I thought and everything that I was taught in his Bible college, and he went to Northwest Bible College, and it was
Yep.
very renowned Bible college,
It is.
and was all a lie because I brought up the possibility is if Satan was already cast from heaven during the time of the garden, that means that mankind had to have already existed for an excessively long amount of time for that to happen. And he would have had to have already been cast out. And why would God have allowed him to be a tempter and not and because he doesn't move in shadows.
Yeah.
He can't for under the God's eye. God is all seeing, omnipresent. So there's no way that the devil is sneaking around planting seeds of doubt and temptation inside mankind without God knowing. What I believe to be in that fall is it had nothing to do with the devil. It had nothing to do with evil. It had everything to do with our ability to have free will. If I put something in front of one of my children and I say, like, I just set it down and I don't say anything about it,
Mhm.
they're probably not going to pay attention to it at all. I
Mm.
could take something like my kids, they all have my phone. I can put it down. Most of them are going to ignore it. But if I put it down, I go, everyone come here for a second. I'm going to put this right here. Don't touch it. Whatever you do, don't touch it. If you touch it, there's going to be consequences. All of a sudden, that's all they can think about. And they're going to
That
touch it.
curiosity.
They're going to touch it because they have the free will to do it. They're going to do it and they're going to just like they really want to take it. If it's candy, it's this, it's the knowledge of good and evil. If you plant that seed there, you're basically planting evil thought, not really evil. I can't really use that's a terrible description, but deceptive thoughts maybe is a better term. What? It's a seed. Oh, a seed of deception and doubt and curiosity in someone's, excuse me, good Lord, in someone's mind. And it's very possible, in my opinion, and I could be wrong. This is very controversial. This is probably going to piss some people off, and I hope it does. I really hope it does. I
You
hope
know,
this gets
and
people
you know what?
thinking. I want
It's
people
rocking
to
the
think
world. Yeah.
about this.
Yeah.
I don't want them to think that the Bible is wrong or that I'm going against it, but I want them to think about what real evil is compared to the will of man and the thoughts of mankind. Is it possible that God just said, don't do this one thing just to plant that in their minds so that there would be the temptation there? Because well, why can't I do that? How come I can do anything but that? What's so good about that? Blah, 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 this, that, and the third. You know what? What really bad could happen if I do this? And then you do it. And then
Yeah.
the guilt, the fear, just like a child when they've done something wrong. Like I can see it on my kid's face. I can imagine how God felt in that moment when he saw his children and he could see it on their face. I know when my kids have done something wrong. They walk in the room and I'm like, what the hell did you do? And they're like, I didn't do anything. It's like, yeah, you did.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's the same thing with that situation because I mean, you have it. They were his children. They were the only living creatures of humankind on Earth. And the only interaction that they had outside of each other was with the Almighty. And of course, he's going to know them like the back of his hand. He created them, just like with my children. I know them like the back of my hand.
Right.
My wife created them. I'd like to say me, but I didn't. But it's the same thing. Is Was there an ultimate evil that was driving it, or was it just free will? And that's the difference between, in my opinion, between
It's
what
hard, man.
real evil is and what free will is. Could Lucifer just be an example of free will in mankind? Could the
Mm.
ultimate sin have been just free will in itself? And it was perverse to say that there was some creature and entity and evil force behind all bad in the world, or is all bad in the world just the ability to have free will?
I gotta tell you this, man. That really took me down a deep rabbit hole in thoughts. And I gotta say Sophia, who's there, by the way, that's John's lovely wife, who's way too good for him.
Yeah.
Um, I'm impressed. That is some impressive comments about free will, and it got me thinking. When we talk about this podcast, who's the devil, right?
Yeah.
It's making me think maybe we are, right? And
Are
and
because tell me something,
yeah,
Chris.
yeah.
And a lot of people will be like, there has to be something behind evil. There has to be something behind good. Maybe there is, maybe there's not. Or maybe people need to listen to what God Himself said to man at one point. I will no longer involve myself in the affairs of man.
Hmm.
That was God wiping his hands clean and saying, you guys have been given the tools, have been given the knowledge of good and evil and the ability. Go forth and do what you're going to do. Just know that there are two paths, there is right and there is wrong. Right will lead you here, and here's how I've taught you how to be right. And wrong will lead you here, and here is where you don't want to be. And is evil just the ability to have free will? Is there some form of devious entity behind evil? I believe behind ultimate evil there is. Those people who are mass murderers, serial killers, rapists,
Hmm.
people who abusers, those people who have that you like you can look at them, like you can watch one of those serial killer documentaries and see
Oh yeah.
that there is not something right with them. I'm actually watching, me and Sophia started a little documentary film about a TikTok or YouTube creator
Hmm.
who ended up horribly, horribly abusing her children. And the moment I saw her face,
Hmm.
the moment I saw her eyes, I could look in there and see that there's something wrong. There's something evil in her eyes. It's like there's no life behind them. Could she be influenced by evil? Yes. Am I going to say why I think she's influenced by evil? No, because I don't want to spark any controversy between religions. It's a religion that I believe is completely perverse. It is a perverse form of Christianity that I think is disgusting, and the people who are a part of that, they are not right in the head. And you and me will discuss that one in private.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
I don't really want to dog on anyone's religion, but I do have my own personal views, and I keep those to myself.
No, of course.
But
Of course.
do I believe that there is a power behind ultimate evil? Yes. Do I believe that it is Lucifer? Absolutely not. And the reason why I don't believe that it is Lucifer is there is in no way anywhere does it say that Lucifer, and I want to use the word Lucifer, not Satan,
Hmm.
that Lucifer is evil, that he is a father of lies, that he is evil incarnate, that he is the tempter, that he is the deceiver. But
So,
it does say in the
um,
Bible that Satan is the father of lies, the
so
tempter.
yeah. So let me ask this: how many times do you hear Lucifer in the Bible?
24 times, I believe. Hold on. I have a thing.
Okay. How many times do you heard him in the New Testament? Has Jesus ever said the word Lucifer?
That's a good question.
No.
I don't believe so. I don't believe.
It's yeah, Satan. It's the word Satan, right?
Okay. So
And
I had to double check that because I was about to
yeah.
say in one translation of the Bible it is not mentioned, but in the Latin translation of the Bible he is mentioned as the Halil Ben Shahir,
Yeah.
or is the name of the appears in Isaiah where it's used to describe the king of Babylon. Moses, the blah blah blah. Yeah, the Christian translation, the Isaiah was the Lucifer, the morning star or day star. Yeah. So, but, and just like you said, Lucifer is not mentioned, but Satan is.
Is
Now,
mentioned both the
when you
Old and New
look,
Testament. It's mentioned both in Old New Testament with
when
Job
you
and
look
yeah.
at the ancient Aramaic, Latin tree of the realms of hell and the kings and the princes of hell,
Mhm.
it shows Lucifer and Satan as two completely different houses, meaning entities, as they are a separate, completely separate entity, that they are not one and the same. It's not Lucifer hyphen Satan. It's not Satan hyphen Lucifer. It is Lucifer, his sigil, and his house. And it is Satan and his sigil and his house. And they are completely different.
So so let me I'm gonna back up a bit because I'm gonna tell you right now, you spoke a lot of interesting, mind-blowing, potentially life-changing thoughts, right? And I love it because like with any podcast I do with you, I want to go one direction. Now I'm like, oh God, I gotta go a different direction, because I
Yeah.
think it's great, and I want that because it's like a plot twist, right? In a movie,
Yeah.
it's like you think it's going one way, it's going this other direction.
Well,
So
that's the thing about it too, is especially when you have a topic like this,
yeah,
um, there's a million different directions that it can go.
yeah,
Especially when you spark a topic as in depth as like, who is the devil? Because the devil is, who is the devil? Really?
yeah.
Is it Satan? Is it Lucifer?
Well,
Is it
it's like the deep state.
Asmodee?
It's
Is
like
it
it's
Tom
like the
Selleck?
well,
Is it like who really is the devil?
it's like the deep state, right?
Yeah.
We think this person's evil, this president's evil, this president's evil. Dude, there's somebody behind the scenes. If I want to be in true power, I'm not going to put myself in public.
If you want to be in true power, make a deal with Asmodeus.
Oh, good Lord. Um, so I'm gonna go back here a few things because I want to go back to Lucifer because I had a few interesting thoughts that I might kind of spark your interest a little bit. But going back to the Garden of Eden, right? Is like the serpent.
Are these nuts?
I'm wondering, like, if we're like, they will put Lucifer aside before his fall. Like, say that's just a theory. Say that was because the Babylon thing and all that stuff. But then, if evil existed, was evil existing at the same time? Like how there's that matter and antimatter, right? In the
Yes.
and did with God being the light, did this evil also exist at the same time as God? Like what I'm saying, always being, right? Again, I'm
So
not
in the
saying one,
time,
you know,
I see your theory. I can picture it.
yeah.
In the time of the garden, I don't think it existed. I think that the idea of evil existed. I don't think it, like in a parallel universe or whatnot, that there was evil, because I don't think that existed then. I honestly believe that parallel universes came on later on. I actually believe that science is the reason that those exist.
By the way,
Um,
everybody watched the movie from John Carpenter, Prince of Darkness. Great movie back in the 80s.
it is a good movie. But one thing I will say is, and I'm gonna have to cut this one a little bit short. I have to leave here soon to pick up my
No,
kid,
no, it's okay.
and it'll be great because, well, I'll leave it on a little bit of a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Um, any listeners out there, I want you to do your research on who is the devil. What is evil? Are we evil? Are we pure evil? Do we do evil things, or is there something behind all evil that makes us do it? Because if you think about it, good people can do bad things. I like to think that I'm a good person, but I've done some horrible fucking things in my life. Um, you know, I wasn't always
So
the
am I.
best of people. I was a recovering drug addict. Most of the things that I did were bad to myself. Um, but I can tell people that I would be capable of great evil. I choose not to. So does that mean that there's some force, some possession in me, some a demon in me that gives me the ability to do great evil? Or do we all have the ability to do great evil? Because that's the difference between the free will theory and the theory that evil only comes from evil things.
Right.
So
Right.
it everyone has the ability to be evil, but free will gives us the ability to choose not to.
You know what? And that's a really good point. And before we end this too, John, I want to share this thought too when you talk about Lucifer, right? And everybody's going to say, "Why are you worship? Why are you making him sympathetic? Like from the Rolling Stones, sympathetic for the devil." And one of the things that could happen too, like Judas, John, being the guy who was predestined to betray Jesus. One
Yeah,
of the things too is what if Lucifer's kind of like that left hand of God to witness humanity's wrongdoings, right?
yeah,
If he loves us, he's witnessing the suffering, right? If you love them, watch them suffer. And I'm not saying God's a bad guy. He's talking about free will. You know,
yeah.
free will is a son of a bitch.
Judas
Everything's
had
per
a choice. Think
yeah,
about that. That's one thing. Some
yeah,
people will say that Judas was possessed by the devil himself. He
yeah,
was not.
yeah,
He was not possessed by the devil. What he was a weaker man. He was a lesser man. And you know what's crazy? A lot of the disciples were lesser men.
yeah.
There was a lot of things that happened during that period of time that made them lesser men. But does that mean that they were evil? Does that mean that they were evil incarnated? Does that mean that there was some driving evil demonic force behind them? No. It means that they have free will and they were weak minded. And
Yeah,
Judas was weak minded. That's what he was. He was a weak minded individual who took a time where he took the easy way out to betray our Lord and Savior and turn him in for fucking dirt money. And that's the problem is everyone can be tempted with anything, but it doesn't mean that he was pure evil. It means that he was weak minded.
and you know what too? I think too, John, is that I think a lot of us blame that the devil made me do it, right?
Yeah.
And you hit a really strong nerve that we do have that free will to choose what we do.
It's an
And
excuse.
and and,
And
and,
I've
and
always
yeah.
said that. I've had a lot of, I come from a very religious family. And and people would always the word, and I use it as a joke now. It's all the sin in your life. It's all the sin in your life. Blah blah blah. This is why it is. It's all the sin in your life. They're fucking choices.
Yeah.
The devil did not make you do it.
Yeah,
You did it.
agreed.
You
Agreed.
were weak minded. Your choice to
Well,
commit an
it's
act of evil, to commit an act of adultery, to commit an act of murder, thievery, violence. Those things are weak minded
right.
moments.
And I mean, it's just like saying, hey, and I'm saying this because I drink. I drank too much, so it was the alcohol that made me do it. Or I smoked too much weed. It was the weed that made, and I'm just saying as an example. I'm not down like trying, what I'm saying? Like, oh, I'm fat because the food made me fat.
And
So,
those are choices.
right.
And what people use those to make those decisions, because people can drink, people can smoke, people can function. I have a couple people in my life that smoke more weed than Snoop Dogg. I don't think I've ever seen them sober a day in my actually, I think if they were sober, they would die. But they're not
Oh
bad
man.
people. They're not bad
Yeah.
people. They don't do
Yeah.
bad things.
Yeah.
They are
Exactly.
successful business owners. They are great human beings, and they go. And I know people that drink. I know people that drink sell a little bit, and I know people that drink like they're fucking fish. And I have a buddy of mine. Actually, me and him are kind of beefing right now too. He is a raging alcoholic.
And
I don't think
by the
he's
way,
sober.
John, I will never be with you because I'm too scared of you.
um, he's a raging alcoholic. He is drunk 24/7. He's one of those people that wakes up, takes a few shots, and goes about his day, and keeps shooters in his backpack just to function. But he's not a bad person, and he doesn't use alcohol as an excuse. As a matter of fact, he owns up to all of his shit.
Yeah.
But there are also people that I know who are drug users, alcoholics, and everything, and that completely 100% blame the drugs. I'm a recovering drug addict, and I'm not talking like, I smoked weed one time. I'm talking about intravenous meth and heroin. Like, I was a heavy drug user, and I never once in my life blamed the drugs for my actions. I always blamed myself because it was always a choice.
Right.
It was always a choice.
And you know what, John? I would say this. You make really good points, especially you being the exorcist that you are, that no matter what position, we think of exorcism people, like it's this whole dramatic thing. It's not about the dramatic moment of the ability to be free. It's about the choices we make that we allow.
I will tell
And
you one thing about exorcism.
Yeah.
is that they tell you and what you learn, and you can even learn this from even just watching TV shows and
Mhm.
watching movies about it and things that you cannot exorcise a demonic entity out of a weak-minded person. You have to not just attack the demon, but you have to build the person up. You have to make them feel safe, make them comfortable, let them know that because in reality, you're the one who's throwing the punches, but they're the one that has to twist the knife in the devil. They
Yeah.
have to be strong-minded enough to cast that evil out of themselves with you.
Yeah.
And it's a choice.
No,
It's a choice
and
because
you're
someone you can go and you can try to exercise someone who is a willing host and it will not work. You'll just kill the host.
and I know you have a lot of experience with that, with our private conversations with that. And I'll tell you this, when we do part two, I think you made this in a whole different direction. Not trying to ignore the other entities that are more powerful than Lucifer, but um, like I said, you just made a plot twist even for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before we end the show, one thing I want to ask you, John, is what can you sum up about Lucifer? Scapegoat? Hero? Both? One or the other? What's your thoughts about that?
I wouldn't say honestly either of them. I would say that he was an entity that had the ability to have free will and he made a choice against the will of the ultimate king. And what do you do when what happens when you go against a king? Think about any time in fucking history. You 99% of the time that king is going to have you executed. But then there's that 1% where that king loved that person so much that he just cast them away. Think about David and Jonathan in the Bible
Yeah.
and their
Yeah.
relationship. How they it wasn't like I'm just going to kill you. It was like I'm going to cast you away or I'm going to and it's going to break my heart
Yeah.
and then you can't do it. I think it was one of those situations where it was the king and his right hand man, whom he loved more than anything, stood against him. And instead of just obliterating him with the flick of his finger, he decided to punish him in a what's the word I'm looking for? In a worse way and a much more traumatic way for both of them with the punishment to have to oversee the evils of the world.
A witness, you would say. A
A
witness of the
witness, yeah.
transaction. Yeah. Interesting. I like it. Okay, with everybody. So we're gonna come out with part two in about 2, 3 weeks because we have a few other podcasts on, and we're gonna and with the direction we talked about before, about other demons and entities, which I'm sure we're gonna jump more into what John talked about earlier in the podcast. But I really like this direction where who's the devil? John mentioned there are a few demons already, but you know what? I'm looking towards humanity in a way too, just because of the thing called free will. So everybody tonight, we want to thank you for listening. And again, how you could reach us
Except
is
for that one guy. If that one guy's listening, fuck you.
oh dude, fuck that guy.
Oh
You
yeah.
mean Bald
Oh yeah.
Jesus? Bald
Yeah.
Jesus? Yeah, God, that
That
guy.
guy.
God, you know
I
what? That's
always have
been
to make sure. I always have to make sure because I know he listens because he always talks shit. And you know who you are out there.
and I'm
Fuck you.
still posting on North Kitsap community, so kiss my portal. So, and you know what? I'm not violent. John will take care of it, man. You know that song "Dirty Deeds and Done Dirt Cheap" by AC/DC? That was before John was born. It was predestined, preordained. All right. Hey, John, hang on to a quick second to debrief. And everybody, again, how you can listen to or reach us is boundtruth34 at gmail.com, Facebook, YouTube, X, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Buzzsprouts, all those platforms on top of it. Definitely reach out to us. We would love to hear your thoughts, and we will definitely get back on the wagon here. We,
Chris is also on OnlyFans too. You got to do a little bit of digging, but it's there.
oh, dude, it's called hair fetish. All right, everybody, have a great night. And again, we'll see you on the other side. Peace.